Now I can explain, with this new theory of consciousness, I can explain exactly what happened and exactly why that is correct. Every single one of us is a field that is both the observer, the observed, and the actor.
Whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me. And as crazy as this sounds, it's what's guiding me now. And
quantum computing is the first technology that takes the idea serious that we live in a multiverse. It can be seen as farming out computations to parallel universes. Let me explain.
Understanding in neuroscience how our brain filters out this wider awareness, just like they were saying in Kashmiri Shaivism in the 10th century.
Got the load hooked up and I began flying away. And once it was just me and that object in between the pick and the drop site, there's about 20 miles in between, I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
was it loving?
It was loving. But there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
there was a gathering at Esalen.
Okay.
And a lot of very high net worth individuals who were interested in suppression of non-human intelligence attended. What happened?
I think something epic happened. I think something happened that, if it was fully documented and understood, would go in the history books.
I had a feeling last week that that was historical.
It felt absolutely historic. What you had was a combination of the world's leading, like most frontier scientists. You had people that were top experts in all their fields. And then you had a variety of fields that was outrageous. We had neurosurgeons, doctors in neurosurgery. We had physicists. We had high net worth individuals in the billions that were extremely open-minded and had a frontier attitude towards all this. We had mystics. We had psychic kids. We had children from Germany that could harness and actually showcase their ability to perform telekinesis, their ability to psychically see things with their mind, and were able to prove that to all of us. We also deployed some of our psionic assets that we've used and are part of our new team with Skywatcher, and we summoned UAP. We had the UAP come and fly around and visit and hang out with us and take off.
And I have to say, I saw it too.
Yeah.
And it was profound.
Overwhelm me. And
what do you feel? What's the emotion?
I feel a sense of my mother. I don't know how else to explain it. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness.
I added a master's degree in Asian studies to my PhD, and I began to explore the concepts shared by the writers of medieval texts of Kashmir, which also support the view that consciousness is fundamental and that matter is derivative from consciousness. And
beauty, and song. And it was very disruptive to me because I had a very practical responsibility at the time to operate a helicopter in the mountains at night. And I began wondering what was wrong with me. It was late. I'm like, am I just stressed? Am I tired? Am I marinating in cortisol? No, I felt like something connected with me. I felt like something had tuned in to me and my soul and was providing me some sense of guidance on what to do and how profound what I was doing was. And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry.
There are properties that exist in a reality that is deeper than the space and time reality where our bodies exist. And that capacity to know ourselves resides in that field. The capacity to direct our experience resides in that field.
But just suppose, during the same labile period, this information is being represented elsewhere. The time it takes for information, any electromagnetic information, and you can calculate yourself, to go from a brain, for example, into the geomagnetic field is about 10 to 20 minutes. In other words, just suppose there are two phases. One that go into the individual brain, represented as synaptic patterns, which, when it dies, it's gone. But what about the other information that's been represented elsewhere? And is that physically possible? Absolutely. Does the Earth's magnetic field have the capacity to store that energy? Very clearly. What's the mechanism? That we don't know. But it's going to be like a hologram.
Had you ever had an experience like this before?
No. No, it was a very feminine energy, I'll tell you that. It felt like the spirit of God, but not in any masculine sense that I had ever felt. It was like, again, the feeling of my mother. Whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me. And as crazy as this sounds, it's what's guiding me now. And there is a known and researched and implemented emotional or psychic, or what we call a psionic component to the research and development of the UAP program. Then there typically is for those with a psionic ability. So these people are sought out and are used to contribute to the research that might be going on with the psionic.
Isn't that the message you got from whatever that intelligence
Overwhelming
was?
sense of beauty. Overwhelming.
And love?
And love. And go to designated landing sites in a link loss. So that same system would be deployed, because commonly what happens with a psionic asset who is using a form of intuition and consciousness to connect with the craft, there's a disconnect, we call it, which is like link loss. I can tell you, when we run exercises using the psionic assets in an intentional environment to get samples to the ground, we intentionally disconnect the psionic asset so that the HPM systems can be energized, because there are some potential issues that can happen if the psionic asset is still connected to the craft when it's hit with an EMP or other HPM.
I'm told part of their consciousness can stay in the craft.
Yeah, it seems to be the case that the human being can suffer some form of cognitive injury by still being connected to that craft when that craft is de-energized.
I want to put something to you. Yeah. I've spoken myself, you haven't told me this, but I've spoken myself to people of Native American background, Indigenous Americans, who say that this is a particularly popular thing for recruitment from the program to happen in Indigenous American communities.
Yes, I know that for a fact.
There are also people from countries in the third world where these abilities are recognised and not treated with stigma as we do in the Western world.
Yeah, there is no stigma. In fact, if there's any stigma, if you're the one who's not playing along, you might be the outcast in those cultures.
So the irony is that part of your discovery inside the program is that there genuinely are people who can actually make a mental, spiritual connection to a technology.
Yes, 100%.
Was that a revelation to you?
It was fun. It was actually fun to learn. That's one of the things in our work that was like, oh my gosh, there's more to life. It
really found computer code.
You dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos.
Into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos, yes.
Computer code.
Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
It's not just sort of resembles computer code, You're saying it is computer code.
It's not even just is computer code, it's a special kind of computer code that was invented by a scientist named Claude Shannon in the 1940s.
So are you saying we are all just, there's some entity that programmed the universe and we're just expressions of their code?
And perhaps this really
Answered certain questions and intuitions, if you will, that you have going back to your childhood, and if anything, that were most present in your childhood, which is very satisfying because, you know, something as a child, you have this particular feeling, and it kind of dies out as you become more mature and have to take on more responsibility. And so to be able to nurture that and accept that that might be the case, and to see organizations
Go further, Jake. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And probably most right about, and that is his CE5 protocol.
So CE5 is when he uses meditation and he claims it engages telepathically with the phenomenon.
Yeah, that's his term for it. Like, we don't use CE5. We don't use Dr. Greer's protocol. No to other people in the program or subsequent programs.
So CE5 is real.
Yeah, if we're going to use his term, I'll tell you what is real is the ability to go into something like a meditative state and summon UAP and pilot UAP. That is real. That's 100% real.
Wow. I have to process that for a moment because that is just the most extraordinary claim.
Matthew, and say, you will know them by their fruits. So stand by and judge us for our fruits.
You've been really touched, haven't you, by this experience? It's touched you spiritually.
Yes, it has.
And I came back with an understanding and a knowledge that I had crossed over into another dimension. I was transformed.
It's a spiritual experience, and what you're trying to do now is replicate in the private sphere what's being suppressed in the public sphere.
That brightest star called Regulus.
Is there images?
I think it's Leo. Pretty sure it's Leo.
Okay, this is the Lady of Guadalupe.
Yeah.
So that was the first time you saw the lady. And when did she give you a specific time when things were going to change with humanity?
She's, I've seen her more than one time. And yes, I didn't hear from her except at Easter of 2013. She came back.
Okay, yeah, Regulus. It is a star. It's the star of Leo, the lion heart.
Yep. And when she told me when that star aligns on the horizon before daylight, in the gaze of the Sphinx, there would be a shift in the knowledge of humanity, a new knowledge, and that's what she told me.
The monopoly the U.S. government has on the subject matter is not respected by the non-human intelligent spirits. Again, the skies are not classified and your conscious cannot be redacted. And ultimately, why I feel safe and why I feel optimistic about the future is I know that the NHI is guiding us that way. We need to know that we're not alone. We need to know that there's a profound spiritual component to our existence. And
to have life after death. We are literally eternal beings. I'm having studied this for over 25 years. I am absolutely convinced, based on evidence, that you, me, every single person seeing this video, yes, all of us are indeed going to have life after death. We are literally eternal beings having a physical earthly life. This is temporary. Our real existence is going to be in the afterlife, and a wonderful afterlife.
And that's just for the sake of our own fellowship as creatures sharing this planet, but also there's an extreme amount of utility in our ability that has been suppressed forever. So it'd be different if the government and what was being hid behind this subject matter was the fact that there was an asteroid on course for Earth, that there was no way we could we could redirect it, or there's no way we could defend against it, and we were all going to die in the year 2020X or whatever it is. That's not what's being hidden. What's being hidden here is something extremely positive, and it's something we've all hoped for. It's the one thing we've all looked for in all of our religions that we celebrate across the world. It's the one thing that we want to be true of our religion, and it's the one thing that, the one common thread amongst all religions. And so that's what's being hidden, and that's what we're going to find out, and you can't bottle it up.
The implications of what you're saying also are that potentially there is some kind of capacity to draw incredible amounts of energy from
I've seen it.
the quantum vacuum.
I've seen it.
You've seen it.
I've seen it.
There's also obviously the capacity to use propulsion systems that are far beyond what we're describing.
Yeah, that seems to be the case as well.
Anti-gravity.
Anti-gravity.
They know about it. Anti-gravity, zero-point energy. Those secrets are being suppressed from our knowledge.
I've seen demonstrations recently that again proves that the government doesn't have a monopoly on this. They have, while they have, we know that they have been working on it, they've seemed to have been doing a good job in keeping others from making their own independent progress. But that time is changing. Independent progress is happening right now, and it's coming out. That's why I'm so confident. We don't need to rely on their body of lack of evidence, let's say. I'm not here to make anyone believe anything. It's exhausting. Like, either you're going to get it or you're not going to get it. Like, in our own capacity, we've operated Skywatcher already. Me and my team, on the very first outing, summoned a white egg in broad daylight. And while I have pictures of it, I'm happy to share with you. We calculated this object to be traveling, depending upon the slant range distance, anywhere between 3,000 and 11,000 miles per hour based on the size. We're still analyzing the data we collected from the range. And we're happy to show that to you. And so what else could that be? There's this other way of looking at this. Like, we can put all this information before you, and you could say, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. We're at a point now where the amount of information is so overwhelming, the probability that any alternate explanation for its existence is there is so much less than the probability that what I'm telling you is exactly what is going on. This is why I know disclosure is coming, and guess what? It's going to come out in the most beautiful way. I believe the United States government in the next 12 months is going to use me and my team as a peaceful, non-judgmental path forward to disclosure. They're going to help us conduct our operations and gather evidence in order to present this subject matter to the public so that these questions can be answered once and for all. And all the questions. I'm talking about, what do the craft look like? How do they operate? Who is operating them? How are they being operated? And where are they coming from? We should be able to answer those questions probably entirely in the next 12 months.
Can I put to you, there is a dark state. There are people who don't have good intentions, who want this secret to remain suppressed, aren't there?
It seems that way, yeah.
Are they going to win?
No, they're not going to win. They're not going to win. We've passed a tipping point. Like I said, when you're talking about these people, they aren't organized. You become a dark person by being filled with more vice than virtue. Virtuous people win. People full of vice, they lose. And that's going to be an exciting day. The things I'm talking about are going to be, Dave did a great job of paving a path. I'm going to come along and try and improve upon that path and widen the road. I expect the next the next groups of folks that are going to be coming down this path are going to blow it wide open. Yeah.
Do you worry for your safety, for your family's safety?
No, I don't. I think I'm being protected, believe it or not, by the NHI. And also, I don't put up with harassment. I don't believe in the boogeyman. I am the boogeyman.